Hola, yo soy un poco loco para esta película y bienvenidos a mi movie review for COCO, Disney Pixar's new film COCO. I am so excited to talk to you guys about this film. I love this film. It is one of my favorite films of the year, so let's get right into the review, guys. I think most people will agree with me when I say that this was not the best year for American animated films because we got horrible, mediocre movies all throughout this year in terms of animation. I can only really name the Lego Batman movie as being one of the better American animated films. We got things like Despicable Me 3, Boss Baby, Emoji Movie, just these horrible, mediocre, crappy animated films. And there was no real good cinema coming out for kids. And I'm such a big advocate for good animated films because it is basically kids' first exposure to cinema. And if that cinema isn't good, then they're just going to see movies as a pastime, nothing as a serious art form. So I was really excited walking into Disney Pixar's Coco because I know Pixar knows how to put cinema, real cinema, in the form of animation on the big screen. And as I walked out of that theater, I can assure you that I was blown away by this movie. This is one of the best films of 2017, and for me, one of the best American animated films from Pixar. And I love this movie so much. Let's just start by talking about the basics that we know by now about Pixar, and that is the beautiful animation and the beautiful landscapes in this film. And the landscapes, I think, are something that Disney as a company, not only Walt Disney Animation Studios, but it's a subset of Pixar, has just been perfecting, as well as character design. I mean, the animation in this movie is flawless. It is just immaculate. There are sequences in this film where you are so submerged into this world that you believe it to be true. There's never a moment in this film where you feel really like you're watching an animated movie because the movie feels so palpable and so real because of its amazing visuals. Of course, one of the most famous shots of this movie that has now become famous is that first shot of Miguel, the main character, waking up in the land of the dead. And the cinematography and the detail that has gone into the animation of that particular shot is just insane, guys. This is the kind of filmmaking that we want to see in animation. I mean, this is some of the best work in animation design that I've seen. This movie, of course, is about Miguel, who ends up on the Day of the Dead, in the land of the dead, based on Mexican folklore, and it's basically about that adventure without giving away anything or too much. And so, well, seeing that world in animation form, the land of the dead in that animated form, was really a treat to see, and it was so rich and detailed and so full of small little Easter eggs that really pay tribute to Mexican culture, that I just was swept away by Coco on just a surface level, technical level. I mean, the cinematography was so great of these specific animated landscapes. And the characters, I think that Pixar has just been nailing the characters even more now, because we have characters who are basically skeletons in this film. And if you really pay attention to the details in the animation, make sure you pay attention when you're watching this movie to the shadows of these skeletons. It's really interesting to see how much intricate, real detail has been put into the character designs of these characters, specifically those skeletons. So from a technical surface level alone, Pixar's Coco is a standout masterpiece of technical work in animation. Because it's very difficult nowadays to, animate humans, because we're so used to seeing animals and all these inanimate objects, it almost begins to feel the norm to see them be animated. But to animate humans, first of all, takes a really skill that's really rare to see in Hollywood nowadays, and to animate skeletons with that level of detail, with that level of structure, is something that only Pixar could have pulled off. And we're only on the technical stuff right now, guys. Let's get into the story, the meat, the themes of this film right now. It should come as no surprise to you that Coco is one of the most imaginative and well thought out, well executed films I've seen in this year. I'm always looking for a spark of imagination in films, and no film studio does that better than Disney, of course, and no subset of Disney, I think, does that better than Pixar. I mean, Pixar has been producing such great work for so long with such imaginative themes, such imaginative stories, but I think that this has got to be one of their most imaginative scripts yet. I mean, they draw from so many different sources in this film. Now, I want to give you a little list of the sources that I could personally think of that this movie was kind of related to. Now, of course, this movie has been compared to Spirited Away, Studio Ghibli's Spirited Away. I do agree that there are a lot of good parallels between that film and this film. Of course, it's also been compared to Wreck-It Ralph for some of the themes in the film, as well as The Book of Life, although it's kind of unclear which film started its production first. But I think Coco is, in some ways, of course, it is eclectic and takes things from many different sources. But I think what Pixar has done with Coco is something really, really unique in terms of an imaginative storyline. They really have taken something from our real world and connected it to folklore in a way that is really interesting, while also being able to inject a sense of Mexican culture that is really vivid throughout the film. And of course, I am talking about three different things in this when I said that. I'm talking about the usage of music in this film, and the usage of the folklore of the Day of the Dead, and of course, kind of the Mexican landscape as the country of Mexico is shown in the parts of the movie where Mexico is actually shown. And the way that they connect all these three things is bound together by one thing, and that is their theme of family and legacy. Now, this is something that very few films really dive into, really put their, all the money into the bag into family. It's very rare. I mean, you see movies with family themes in animated movies. I think Kung Fu Panda is definitely a very good example of a film that really likes to deal with family issues. But what Coco does is really interesting, because not only does it deal with family, it deals with lost family. It deals with loved ones who have passed away, which is very, very heady material to take on in a film that should be lighthearted and ultimately for children. But what the movie does is it takes these themes and turns it into something so palpably emotional and unsentimental and unmelodramatic and very non-sappy, and turns it into something that feels really real. And of course, there are times that the movie does kind of border on that melodrama, but for the most part, actually, this is one of the most realistically emotional films that I've seen this year, because there are so many scenes in this film where family members are interacting, and it's between family members who haven't seen each other for so long, or passed away family members, and they're all being connected through this folklore, through this music story. And it's so imaginative and so well executed. I mean, the screenplay of this film alone and the dialogue is so top notch, and everything just comes together in such a beautiful and magnificent way. It feels absolutely seamless. You can't tell where the theme of music starts and where the theme of family ends, and it's all combined in a way that feels very well put together, very uniform, and you come out of this film feeling really refreshed, having seen a film that can draw from many sources, that can put many things together, and can put lots of themes together and still make the screenplay work. And that is something that only Pixar has been able to do, and this is truly, in my opinion, one of the best animated films of the year and one of the best films of the year, because it's very, very difficult to be able to put so many different themes and package it into not only a movie that's entertaining for all ages, for it has to be entertaining for kids, it has to be entertaining for adults, it has to be entertaining for elder people, it has to be entertaining for all demographics. This is a Disney movie, after all. It's an animated Disney movie. So not only did they succeed in making a very, very entertaining adventure story, but they interweave that adventure story with a whole mixed bag of themes that feel real, that feel emotional, that feel absolutely palpable. And I love that about this film. Coco has just blown me away, guys. And it was such a great treat to see. After the plethora of crap animated films I've seen this year, Coco was a refreshing movie to see in the theaters. But no film goes without criticism. I love Coco for what it was able to do, with its family themes and within the parameters of a Disney film. I mean, it ultimately, from looking at it from that perspective, it's a Disney film. It's for kids. It has to have a certain sense, sort of sense of optimism, some lightheartedness, and within those Disney parameters, what the film was able to pack in, the themes it was able to pack in, is truly remarkable. But looking at it from an unbiased perspective, I think that this movie wasn't able to get as deep into the emotion as it should have been able to, or could have been able to. I mean, there are lots of scenes, I must say, that have very authentic, real emotion in this film, but I think that they kind of gloss over some parts that could have and or should have been a little bit darker. And I think that's because they were trying to fit those Disney parameters. I think that even though they did, again, a great job of packing as much as they could within those parameters and did a good job at it as well, there are parts of it that feel a little glossy, a little too optimistic, or a little too lighthearted. When I feel that if this would have been a film somehow in a live-action universe and dealt with the same themes, I think it could have gone in a more darker, slightly more emotional mood. But I think that what COCO does is also great. I mean, it's very important, first of all, to get kids to watch great cinema. And COCO is a perfect example of the type of cinema that children need to be watching. Please don't show them the Emoji Movie. Please show them COCO, because these are the kind of movies that really give them their first introduction to what great cinema looks like. Real cinema, where you have themes, you have real characters, you have adventurous storylines that are also entertaining, but you have those things that make a great film. Guys, I loved COCO, if you can't tell already. My only small criticism of it was that it could have been more emotional, but that said, what they did within their parameters is truly amazing. I'm going to give COCO an A. I think it really deserves it. I think that if they had made this in any other way, the movie wouldn't have done so well. I love the theme of music. There's amazing music in this film. I think it's a type of movie that we should go with kids to see, because I think it's very important for kids to have exposure to what good animated cinema looks like. It's not all fluff, okay? There's all these movies that came out this year, Nut Job 2, Emoji Movie, Despicable Me 3. All these are just so fluff animated films with no real themes, with no real characters, just kind of gimmicks and kind of hijinks and slapstick. While that's fine in its own kind of place, I think that real powerful animated cinema is something that Pixar has been doing, is continuing to do, and this was my favorite Pixar film since Inside Out. I liked Finding Dory too, but I think that this one was much better than Finding Dory. Go see COCO, guys. It's a great animated film. And be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and do all those great things. I'll have more movie reviews coming out to you guys really, really soon.